Tonight, John Key joins O-Week at Waikato University. It's all about Sea Week and Trustpower Community Awards. Kia ora and good evening. Welcome to Central News on TV Central for Thursday the 5th of March. I'm Amanda Harper. In today's news, O-Week at University of Waikato is in full swing, with the Waikato Students' Union organising Clubs Day on Wednesday. This is an opportunity to showcase clubs that are available to students. WSU President Shannon Stewart says clubs can enhance students' experiences and a wide range of clubs are on offer, from gardening to sporting to political. Prime Minister John Key stopped by the Young Nats Club and told Anne-Marie Case-Miller why he chose to visit University of Waikato.
Because of its critical importance really to the students and population that live around the Hamilton area. If you think about Hamilton, it's very much in the Golden Triangle. Get a huge number of students coming from Rotorua, basically right through from Tauranga, obviously Hamilton and Auckland. Secondly, some of the disciplines that are taught here are the best in the country, so it's got a very, very strong set of faculties here. And thirdly, it's just great to engage with the students, see what they're doing, encourage them to do well in their studies.
A complex system of fronts and lows is sitting over New Zealand, bringing unsettled and changeable weather. Bay of Plenty residents were greeted this morning with showers, which are expected to continue for the next 5 days. The Met Service says 1 or 2 showers are predicted for the Bay today, and temperatures are expected to sit around the 24-degree mark. While there are no warnings in place for the region, the Met Service are forecasting heavy rain to hit the eastern Bay of Plenty ranges around Friday. There is a moderate confidence that rainfall accumulations could reach warning criteria. However, the Met Service advise that this could all change depending on the weather patterns. With injuries and rehabilitation behind them, the Bay of Plenty's Morgan Morrow and Alexis Tapsell will be hoping some of the New Zealand Women's Sevens winning form will rub off on them. The pair, along with the Bay's Kelly Brazier, have all been included for the third leg of the World Rugby's Women's Sevens Series in Atlanta, USA on March 14th and 15th. Morrow and Tapsell were sidelined with injury for the first 2 legs of the series and had to watch their teammates from the stands as they clinched a winning start in Dubai and Sao Paulo. Heading to the US, the high-flying Kiwis will look to extend their slender lead in the World Series standings. They are currently on 40 points, ahead of Australia on 36 and Canada on 32. The cost of utilising maximum potential from the Waikato River will cost Hamilton ratepayers upwards of $4.75 million over the next decade if all goes according to plan. The Hamilton City River Plan was adopted by the council last year, and funding costs have been penciled into the draft 10-year plan and show the costs involved with bringing the river to life. Mayor Julie Haraka has been the driving force behind the river plan and says the funding package will allow critical work to start along the city's 16-kilometre river corridor. She says the public have been interested to get it started, and this is a good opportunity for the council to enable that to happen. River projects expected to start during the next 2 years include the Pukete Flower Bridge, the Wellington Street Beach River Swimming Pool, and the development of a master plan for Ferrybank and Roos Commerce Park. And now for our region's weather. Hamilton tomorrow expects showers from late morning with northerly winds changing to a westerly. High of 26 and low of 14. The rest of the Waikato will have showers developing but should clear in the evening. Paeroa 26 high, 14 low. Matamata 24 and 14. Te Awamutu 26 high and 14 low. Tokoroa, your high is 22 and 13 overnight low. Tauranga expects showers developing, clearing in the evening. High of 25 and low of 17. For other parts of the bay, expect showers on and off. Te Puke, your high is 23 and overnight low of 16. And for the marine forecast, West Coast Raglan, Friday morning northwesterly 30 knots, easing in the afternoon to 15 knots. High tide is at 9:04 p.m. And on the East Coast Bay of Plenty, variable 15 knots. Your high tide is at 3 minutes to midnight. Coming up, it's Sea Week. Welcome back to Central News. I'm Amanda Harper. Earlier in the week, we met Chantal and Nataria from Tauranga. They share more of their story with us tonight.
Oh, I've been blown away. The kindness of strangers, that has really touched my heart, and the powerful messages of love people have been writing on the site. Like somebody wrote, I don't know you, but I'm a daughter too, and I've been in the same situation as you, and my heart goes out to you. And another wrote that she didn't know me, but a story really touched her heart, and she really hopes I get to go back to the UK to spend precious time with Mum. And knowing that my mum's love for me and mine for her has touched other people's hearts and opening them up to be so kind and so generous and making my dream happen, it's really incredible. And the kindness obviously of friends, and it's not just people who are donating, it's the prayers and positive intentions people are putting out. It's sharing my story, it's giving me a big hug, and wishing me well with it. It's a lot of love has been coming through, and that's what my mum's all about, love. And I love it that my mum is touching people's hearts.
Yeah. And how does that make you feel, Taria?
Well, it's not something I wouldn't expect, to tell you the truth. I knew that their story was worth sharing and that the love would transmute. And not just in our community and nationally, it's taken over the ditch as well, it's all over the world. And I think it's not fair holding back what they've got. I think it needs to be shared and inspire other people as well, because like I said, our mothers were like that to us.
Givers.
And we reflect that onto our children, and we want to keep that going and just ripple out to many people it resonates with.
It's amazing that when people come together, how you can really change people's lives. And I don't mean just with my personal story, whatever your cause is, whatever touches your heart, we can all give more. We can all give more love. And that's what I'm experiencing, being on the receiving end of things and putting you in a state of gratefulness. It's really, really transformative. So, and this will inspire me to pay it forward more as well.
And that's the thing too, is that whole Kiwi attitude as well, is never give up, no matter what. And we can do this together, and it's just so many levels. It's not just getting a mother back with her daughter or a daughter back with a mum. It's awareness about everything going on with her health and Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's. It's about getting that community feel and that bond back as well, and it's busy. I buzz out every day, I'm on there looking at it, and it just makes my heart just weep with love and gratitude, and just I'm amazed.
There's so many people that are affected with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, and I do encourage anyone to look at the website and get more information of how you can support people. Just more awareness is fantastic, because it's a devastating illness, both of them, and it's a slow death, and it's very hard to grieve because it's a prolonged grief, and it's hard to get closure. And because I'm so far away, it's especially hard for me to get closure. It's hard enough letting go of any loved ones, and there'll be many people that are separated from their loved ones that will be experiencing this kind of grief and frustration of not being able to be together. So my heart goes out to them as well.
And before we finish, is there anything you'd like to quickly say to your supporters?
Thank you so much from the centre of my heart for all of your love, your support, your generosity. Like I said, I will pay it forward with love, and I appreciate it so much in whatever capacity that you have given and shared and supported me, and for your positive prayers as well. Thank you, and most of all, this wouldn't be happening without you. So.
If you were touched by their story, head to givealittle.co.nz/cause/reunite mum and daughter. Every little bit helps. The university's Coastal Marine Field Station staff will lead a coastal bike ride with a difference as part of the Marine Station's annual open day on Saturday the 7th of March in Tauranga. Hilary spoke with experts in the field.
Seaweed comes up every year in New Zealand. It's a marvellous idea because it allows educational opportunity for the general public about the value of the sea, the marine resources out there, conservation. We've been here for about 3 years now, and from the first year we're keen to every year have activities in Seaweed, and we had a bright idea, given the interest that people have to walk and ride around the coast, to incorporate that with some sort of educational opportunity. The first year was blown out by a weather bomb, but people turned up anyway. And then in subsequent years, we've had groups of up to about 50 coming along this bike ride. And what we do is we go around the Waikato estuary on the marvellous tracks they have there through the mangroves and everything. And every now and then we'll just stop off, often as people have a question that raises, or we'll stop off at a certain point that allows us to peek into the water or have a look into the mangroves and just talk about issues that are relevant to the estuary, issues that are relevant to Tauranga. Sea lettuce, of course, comes up, mangrove issues come up, and it's a way of being in the wild, as it were, and then just talking about how the whole estuary connects with the open ocean, how it's influenced by the hills, pollution, humans. And the most amazing questions then start to flow. You know, value, for instance, from sea lettuce. Can we do anything with it? Which we can. Added to that, usually we have a mataranga element where we learn something about traditional knowledge, which is traditional science, and around the estuary as well. And so it's an amazing sort of opportunity just to talk to people, find out what their main concerns are. It helps us actually in prioritising what we do. And communicating, it's really good, and you get healthy at the same time.
This is part of a wider initiative, Seaweek. Is that a national thing or international?
It's national through New Zealand. I've just come back from Akaroa, for instance, talking to some schools down there, and we gave a public lecture, and that was linked to the setup of a marine reserve down there that I was a part of some 25, 30 years ago, showing my age now, but that gave you an indication of how long that took. And so yeah, there's a national interest, and we often swap expert speakers up and down the country, so you get fresh blood in to talk about different things, topics of interest at the time. Concepts like this are out there internationally, but nothing that is so comprehensive through the entire nation all at the same time in the same week, and then linked to other environmental avenues such as land sea connectivity and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very special to New Zealand, and Tauranga in particular, the Bay of Plenty has embraced the whole idea.
Along the ride, you're going to point out areas of ecological interest. What does that mean? We come through areas that look a little bit sad. Areas where, for instance, you're seeing a bit of a sheen on the water. It looks like petrol's on the water, or it's stained as if it's rusty. Turns out that some of these areas are upwelling from old dump sites. In the past, we also used to just push our rubbish off into the estuary. In the past, it was an area that people didn't really consider all of that important. And we're now seeing the remnants of that. We now know quite a lot different. It's a very important habitat for all sorts of things. It's a nursery grounds for important fish species, for instance. And so, we'll be riding along one of the boardwalks, and someone will say, oh, look, what's that sheen on the water? What's the rust about? And so we can explain what's happening there. Often there's some weed in around it. So we say, look, this weed's either a cyanobacteria bloom, a toxic algal bloom. This is where some of the stuff blooms and grows. And of course, the consequence of that is when we think about it, and we've been asked this question, well, is that important if the tide comes in? What happens to the fishes? Absolutely right. The fishes can get affected by, those little toxic sources. Sea lettuce, as I said before, mangroves are a big issue where people have seen them mown down. What are the consequences of that? Will they come back? How do you stop it? All of those sorts of things come up. So we're able to talk with example and evidence as people are seeing directly the consequences of some of the actions that we do and how the estuary is responding.
Stay with us for more from Hilary after the break.
What is that rust?
The rust is literally iron. It interacts with the marine environment, and it looks rusty, and it's because of all of the rust that's going on, probably with buried material in the sort of upper margins of the mangroves and the reed area. So there'd be all sorts of things, old bed frames, old car parts, you name it, and there'd be batteries and things like that from the olden days that were just buried there. Now a lot of that stuff has been taken away. There's now a great concern about these old refuse areas, but there's always going to be a bit of a legacy. And that's what we see in any urban area, anywhere around this country, or indeed anywhere in the world. You see a legacy of past practice that current generations are having to deal with. And I think that's where the interest is now very strong, particularly here, is in how we can enhance the environment for future generations, our kids and our kids' kids, so that everybody can have some enjoyment out of the place.
Can we get ahead if we are still trying to catch up with the legacy that's been left from past generations?
Very good question. In some areas, no. In some areas, there's a legacy of the past. For instance, farming practice now. Farmers themselves, through efforts of Fonterra, the farmers, in their own interests, are doing a huge amount now to replant riparian strips along riverbanks and things in the farms. They're very conscious of farming practice. Reusing effluent and spraying that properly and things like that. But despite all of that, because of really, I think, an unawareness of the connectedness between the land and the sea, there's still this legacy of sediments coming out, nitrogen and other things. So, and it's not a lining blame of practice in the past, it's just a fact of life that, the populations have grown so quickly that these sorts of things are catching up on us. So I think the thing for us right now is to not wrongly accuse different groups of affecting the environment, rather than just accept the fact, okay, we've developed quickly, we've overstripped the environment's ability to accommodate all of this stuff. Let's plan for that. Let's see how we might be able to improve the environment and make up for that legacy. So it's an interesting science, and it means that we need to be connected with what we call stakeholders, but people and industry all at the same time.
Is the sediment, it's bad all around the country, is it particularly bad in the Bay?
No, there are sediment issues, and that's why you're seeing mangroves. In fact, there's a couple of reasons why you're seeing the mangroves growing as they are, robustly. And that's because certainly there are fine sediments coming down from the rivers, and as I say, there's the Regional Council and others, and the farmers themselves are addressing that. They're looking at replanting and slowing down the flow of sediments. But it's a climate related thing too. What tended to nail mangroves in this region and out towards Ohope, Poriki, was frosts. A frost is a kiss of death to small mangroves, and they're not happening at sea level as frequently as they used to. So they're getting away. They're getting out of that sort of vulnerable period when they're small. Before they were knocked over, now they're sort of taking control. So that's what we're seeing is not only the results of, say, our activity, but a global issue, and that's going to happen more and more, I think. So you need to accept the fact, I think, that mangroves are going to be there, and there's some positives with that. They do hold back some of the sediments. They don't actually turn into muddy swamps as people have thought. There's some very fine work being done by NIWA and others around all of this. And they may well enhance some of the nursery grounds that we know these things are supporting for other fishes and things like that. So there's a sort of a visual amenity that people in the past have thought, mangroves, not so nice. I personally actually like them very much because, what's under that forest is incredible.
Meet at 9:45 a.m. at the Coastal Marine Field Station on Cross Road at Sulphur Point for a 10 o'clock start. To register for the ride, please email Nairi Sherlock. Volunteers are at the heart of every community, dedicating hours of time to worthy causes. Trustpower understands that, and I spoke to Jess Somerville about the Trustpower Community Awards.
So entries are currently open for the Trustpower Waipawa District Community Awards, and so I'm here today to encourage people to get behind their local voluntary groups and to enter a group for these awards.
Okay. And do these awards apply to individuals as well?
No, we're just on the hunt for voluntary groups or community groups, basically wherever volunteers are involved.
Yeah. And do you have certain categories?
Yeah, we do. So it's heritage and environment, there's health and wellbeing, there's arts and culture, sports and leisure, and education and child youth development. So basically, there's volunteers in every corner of the district, and they fall under one of these categories.
Okay. Now, how long has Trustpower been running these awards?
So the awards started across the country, well, in the Western Bay of Plenty region in 1994, but the Waipa Award started in 2000. So this is its 15th year.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about some past winners?
Yeah, sure. So we've had the Cambridge Tree Trust, we've had the Mangatauteri Ecological Trust, and last year it was the Cambridge Football Club. So they're heading along to the National Community Awards later on this month in Wellington, so that's really exciting.
Okay, so the National Community Awards, so they kind of go to the next step and they compete against other voluntary groups from around the country as well.
Yeah, so it's pretty tough to compare these groups to one another, but basically across the 25 regional community awards across the country, we have an overall supreme winner and they head along to the nationals. So yeah, that's happening later on this month.
Yeah, like you said, it is hard to compare. What do the judges actually look for when choosing a winner?
Yeah, it's really tough. We have a judging panel made up of myself, a couple of representatives from the Waipa District Council and community members. And so basically we have these information forms from the groups that submit an information form, and we look at volunteering hours, the innovation of a project, if it is a project, longevity and commitment to their community. So it is really tough, but it's really good to learn about all these amazing groups in the community.
Yeah, and what do you personally look for when judging?
Ooh, that's tough. It's always exciting hearing about new projects, but of course, business as usual is still a huge contribution to the community as well. So that's a tough one to answer, actually.
Now, last year's winner, what did they do that kind of put them ahead of everybody else?
Yeah, that's really exciting. They had a great story about the way they grew soccer inside the Cambridge region. Or sorry, football. I better make sure I say the right word there. And so I think they went from a number of teams and basically just grew it substantially, and they've had a bit to do with the Cambridge Football World Cup that's coming up too, the under-20s. So they've got a real presence in the community and they've got a lot of people along behind them on their journey.
Yeah, and why is it important for Trustpower to hold these awards?
Yeah, we think it's really important to be involved in the communities where we operate or where we have a strong customer presence. So for us, the Community Awards is a really neat way to partner with the local council and to recognise these groups and these people that just do so much for their community.
Entries close next Friday the 13th of March. Go to trustpower.co.nz/community awards to enter. That is it from me tonight. To stay up to date with all that we do, like us on Facebook, search centralnews.tv, or if you think you might have a story lead or perhaps feedback about the show, email news@tvcentral.co.nz. We would always love to hear from you. I will be back again tomorrow night with more stories from the Waikato and the Bay of Plenty. I'm Amanda Harper. Have a good night. Pō Marie.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.